It was the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching across 11 time zones, commanding the loyalty of over 170 million souls. It had survived invasions, revolutions, and the coldest winters known to man. For 3 centuries it stood unbroken. And then, in a single moment, one man made one decision, and everything collapsed. What you are about to hear is not just history, it is a warning. Because the fall of the Russian Empire did not happen because of an army, or a weapon, or a foreign power. It happened from within, and it began long before anyone noticed. To understand how an empire dies, you must first understand how it was born. Russia did not grow, it conquered. Under the iron will of Peter the Great in the early 1700s, a fragmented land of wooden villages and frozen rivers was forged into a European superpower. He built a navy from nothing. He carved a city out of a swamp, St. Petersburg, and declared it the new heart of Russia. He looked west and he dragged his nation with him, whether it wanted to come or not. But Peter's greatest legacy was also his greatest curse. He built an empire that could only survive with a strong hand at the top. The moment that hand weakened, the whole structure shook. And by the time Nicholas II took the throne in 1894, that hand was trembling. Nicholas was not a man built for power. Those who knew him described a gentle soul, a devoted father, a loving husband, completely unprepared for the brutal machinery of imperial rule. He did not want the throne. He said so himself on the day he received it, and yet he took it. That was the first decision. The empire he inherited was already cracking. Beneath the golden domes and military parades, something dangerous was boiling. Peasants worked land they did not own. Factories filled with workers who had no rights. Intellectuals whispered words, like revolution and freedom in candlelit rooms. Russia was a powder keg, and Nicholas held the match without knowing it. The year 1905 should have been the warning he needed. A peaceful march in St. Petersburg, workers carrying portraits of the Tsar, asking only for fairness, was met with gunfire. Hundreds died in the snow. The world called it Bloody Sunday. Nicholas called it a necessary measure. He did not see what history already knew, that the moment a ruler fires upon his own people, the clock begins counting down. He could have reformed. He was given the chance. The October Manifesto of 1905 promised a parliament, civil liberties, a new Russia. For a brief moment, hope existed. But Nicholas gave with one hand and took back with the other. The reforms were hollow. The parliament was ignored. The people remembered, and the revolutionaries grew stronger. Then came the war. In 1914, the cannons of World War I began to roar across Europe, and Nicholas made the decision that would seal his fate and the fate of his empire. He chose to personally command his armies at the front. It seemed noble. It was catastrophic, because now every Russian death, every retreat, every humiliation on the battlefield was his fault personally. The Tsar was no longer above the war. He was the war. Back in St. Petersburg, now renamed Petrograd, the empire crumbled without its ruler. Food shortages gripped the cities. Fuel ran out in the bitter winter. Soldiers at the front starved and froze, many without boots, some without rifles. Millions died, and the letters coming home from the trenches told a story of betrayal, not by an enemy, but by their own leaders. The winter of 1917 was the coldest in memory, and on the streets of Petrograd something extraordinary began. Women lined up for bread and found empty shelves. They did not go home. They marched. Factory workers joined them, then soldiers, then the entire city. Nicholas, still at the front, received the reports and dismissed them. A hooligan movement, he called it. That dismissal, that single failure to grasp what was happening, was the decision that destroyed everything. By March 1917, the unthinkable had happened. The Tsar of all Russia, commander of the largest empire on earth, was asked by his own generals to abdicate, and he did. In a railway car, with a quiet stroke of a pen, 300 years of Romanov rule ended. Nicholas stepped off the throne as if stepping off a train, quietly, without drama, without fully understanding what he had just done. What followed was chaos. A provisional government that couldn't hold, A people too hungry and too angry to wait. And in the shadows, a man named Vladimir Lenin, returning from exile on a sealed train, carrying ideas that would set the world on fire. The revolution Nicholas had spent his entire reign trying to prevent arrived the moment he left. The Romanovs were taken to Yekaterinburg in July 1918 in the basement of a house. The dynasty that had ruled Russia for 3 centuries ended in darkness and gunfire. Nicholas, Alexandra, and their 5 children gone. The empire gone. In its place, something the world had never seen before. The Soviet Union, a new kind of power, a new kind of fear. But here is what history whispers, if you are willing to listen. The Russian Empire was not destroyed by Lenin. It was not destroyed by the war. It was destroyed by a man who could not change, in a world that demanded it. Nicholas II was not evil. He was simply the wrong man, at the wrong moment, making the wrong choices one after another until there were no more choices left to make. Empires do not fall in a day. They fall in decisions. Small ones, quiet ones. The decision to ignore a crowd. The decision to trust the wrong advisors. The decision to believe that what worked before will work again. And when the last decision is made, there is no going back. This is the story of Russia's empire. This is the story of Nicholas II. And somewhere in this story, if you look closely enough, is a warning that still echoes today.